One of the things we keep on hearing about during this very quiet season is the uneasiness that exists currently within the Conservative Party. Now, we talked a while ago that the try-election, if it had been a complete three way win and lost to the Tories, there would be an even bigger panic. And I really do believe that they would spend the summer absolutely panicking. And trust me, they are spending this summer panicking. It's not that they are not. There are a lot of MPs that are not sleeping easily. Just because they managed to scrape a win in Uxbridge does not necessarily mean that they can replicate this anti-ULEZ campaign throughout the country. If anything, it maybe only be the outer area boroughs, but traditionally those areas have become very, very much Labour areas. And they don't look as if they are going to switch to the Conservatives just because of an anti-ULEZ campaign. That's not how it seems as if it is going to go down. So, what happens then to these key ministers, these key figures in the Conservative Party? Because, as we're about to find out in a moment, Penny Mordaunt, a potential future leadership contender, someone who we have talked about for quite some time on this channel as a potential future leader of the Conservative Party, someone who is a traditionalist Tory, not quite David Cameron-ish, but not quite in the vein of Liz Truss, Boris Johnson is. She talks for the more One Nation conservative-ish, the more middle groundish Tories. And certainly, if they have any hope in wanting to reclaim the party, that's their candidate. And the other two people are, of course, Kimi Badenoch and, of course, Suella Braverman, who represent certainly the more hard right of the party. So if Penny Mordaunt loses her seat at the next election, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, could that be an interesting race if it comes down to Kimi Badenoch and Suella Braverman? But that is certainly a video for another time. But we want to have a look at what is going on at these election threats, especially down south. Today we're going to go over a piece in the East Anglia bylines to go over the panic that is in the Tory party and what this means for that area. So before we do go diving into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to the Patreon page, the Donation link, the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club. So as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So off we go over, there we go, to the East Anglia bylines. So this is what it is. Echoes of 1997. This is what a lot of people are saying. This is very, very, very much like 1997 all over again. So, according to a recent BMG survey for the iNewspaper, the Labour Party is currently ahead of the Conservative Party by 15 percentage points. This could potentially lead to Keir Starmer winning the next general election by a wide margin, similar to Tony Blair's victory in 1997. If this shift in voter preference were replicated across the country, several high-profile Conservatives would lose their seats. And facing a potential wipeout, Tory MPs have urged Rishi Sunak to be less cautious and outline a compelling vision for voters and a reshuffle of his top team as soon as possible. This is what we are expecting in September. We are expecting almost immediately, as soon as they come off their holidays in September, for there to be a reshuffle. This would bring them into the Conservative Party conference, and this would be where Sunak would lay out this grand vision that he has. Whether it will be a compelling vision for voters or potentially offer more of the same, which is, to be honest, highly likely what he's going to offer, we'll see. We'll see what's in the offing. But if Sunak does start to go in a really hard right direction into a free market fundamentalist direction, then oh boy, is he not only going to lose the party even more, he's going to lose a lot of voters in the process. The recent deregulation of the environmental protections announced as a big housing boost bonanza have not gone down well. So we'll see what happens. He's promised that bold action would be taken to try and improve the country's long-term future and trajectory. Although he faces the severe economic headwinds, inflation is set to rise again, and the Bank of England is likely to increase interest rates to combat it, while Brexit continues to be a drag on the GDP. He is in a dire strait because his Tory tendencies are going to be towards more austerity. When in reality, if you look at what a lot of economists are saying, you need to end that. You need to go and invest. You need to start investing in projects, in stuff like in a ton of stuff. So at the end of the day, we'll see what happens, but it's going to come down to his performance and what comes across at the Tory conference. And we'll be keeping an eye on when that all happens and kicks off as to what gets announced. But I'm not expecting anything amazing. He's going to have to go one of two ways. Either A, he continues on with the status quo, which is going to wow absolutely no one, or he decides to embrace this free market fundamentalism that he is very, very much a part of. And that whole right-wing libertarianism is not popular in the UK. Remember, Liz Truss tried that. And look what she almost did. But anyway, so senior ministers losing their seats. This is what could be interesting about this. So the electoral model that was calculated by electoral calculus also suggests that this outcome could result in the defeat of 5 cabinet ministers if the shift from the Conservatives to one of the two other major parties were uniform across all constituencies. Alongside the Energy Secretary Grant Shapps, the MP for Welwyn Halfield, other ministers could also lose their seats to the Labour candidates. Our Transport Secretary Mark Harper, Commons leader Penny Mordaunt, as we said, that would be very, very big if she loses her seat, because at that point, the moderate faction lose their candidate. And who are they going to rally behind then? Well, it all depends who's left. And of course, Greg Hands, the Conservative Party chairman. Alex Chalk, the Justice Secretary, could also lose his seat to the Lib Dems. And these predictions are based on the new constituency boundaries scheduled to take effect at the next general election. Additionally, several junior ministers, including prominent figures like the leading Brexiteer, Steve Baker, and the Veterans Minister, Johnny Mercer, may also face electoral defeat. Backbenchers could also lose their parliamentary seats, could also include Jacob Rees-Mogg, Ian Duncan-Smith, and Theresa Villas. And one of the good things that would come from this massive defeat would be the fact that there are less hardcore Brexiteers. Just the fact that you've no longer got Steve Baker, Jacob Rees-Mogg. There will be a lot less Brexiteers, meaning that the conversation around Brexit in Parliament will fundamentally change. You've seen Theresa May recently try and rewrite her own Brexit history, something that we commented on a while back, that eventually the Conservatives, this really now anti-EU single market customs union, may all of a sudden completely backflip 180 and say, actually, no, we want to be back in the EU. We want to be back in the single market. We want to be back in the customs union. I said it would take some time, but you've got Theresa May rewriting her own history to try and enable that story that she was trying to help out those people who did vote to remain in the EU, that she was trying to take their concerns into account. But of course, as people said, the very first thing she dropped was remaining in the single market and customs union, mostly because of the pressure she was under by these hardcore Brexiteers, by the ERG. Remember, one of the first things they did was they pushed her to trigger Article 50 as quickly as possible because they did not want any debate around what had happened to be a suggestion that there might be a second referendum, as Jacob Rees-Mogg had even said in Parliament prior to that. But this is the moment that people are talking about, the Portillo moment. And that's the big 1997 Blair win, and Michael Portillo, a potential future leader of the Conservative Party, just as Penny Mordaunt was, lost his seat. And people were shocked. Might we get very similar outcomes on that election night? We can hope so. We can certainly hope so. So these poll predictions do invite comparisons with the 1997 election, which include the very infamous Portillo moment, when Michael Portillo, along with 6 other cabinet ministers, were defeated. Since then, the only cabinet ministers to lose their seats were the Lib Dem ministers in the party's near wipeout in 2015. In addition to these electoral challenges, 2 MPs in East England, Jonathan Delogie, I think that's how you say it, in Huntingdon, and Richard Bacon in South Norfolk, have also been deselected by their local Conservative associations, while Matt Hancock in West Suffolk has been urged to step down by his association after losing the whip. Other MPs in the region who have not chosen to stand for re-election are Chloe Smith in Norwich North, Will Quince in Colchester, Charles Walker in Boxbourne, Sir Mark Pegging in Hemel Hempstead, and Stephen McPartland in Stevenage. This is one of those interesting moments where you've got MPs who are not choosing to stand again because they know they're going to lose. And they don't want to stand again. They would rather spend that time going to try and look for a second job, or at least a job after their MP life. I mean, we'll see what happens. And it all comes down to play in this next general election. I don't think Rishi Sunak is going to wow people at the Conservative general election, at the Conservative Party conference. I think he's going to come out looking very, very bad. I think the party is going to split even more. Rishi Sunak is already a weak prime minister. He's going to be able to do nothing to try and bring the party together. He will not be able to instill discipline. It is going to be an absolute mess. And it is going to be fantastic to watch because all the problems the Conservatives are complaining about, from lack of house building to the economy to infrastructure, all these problems are theirs. This is the end of their own government. We have had 13 years of Conservative rule. They have been the ones at the helm. The Brexiteers, the champions of Brexit, have been the ones at the helm, supposedly promoting the benefits of Brexit to deliver absolutely nothing whatsoever. Yeah, this is where we are. 13 years of absolutely nothing, taking the country from bad to worse. And they've got no one else to blame for it but themselves. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to click on the like, share, and the comment down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.